Well, Kathy, thank you for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me to speak to the honors program here today. I founded Anchorage in 1974 to develop and manage commercial real estate. Since then, we've developed and/or repositioned about 15 million square feet of office, retail, residential, multifamily, and some industrial space in the Washington, D.C. area. The bulk of that space has been office space, and the majority of it has been office space in the district. We have also completed projects in Maryland and Virginia as well. We concentrate on the quality of our efforts and think of being in the service business, not the space business. And the most important people in the world are our clients. A lot of people call them tenants. We don't. We call them clients. And what we would try to do is to find out what they want and what they need and take care of them. And if we take care of them, everything else pretty much follows along behind it. Our family made the decision to move to the Eastern Shore from Alexandria, Virginia in 1981 so that I could meet my three children and hopefully get to know them. We purchased a fairly modest farm at the time on Oxford Road, and over the last 30 years we've assembled a number of other farms which happen to be contiguous to the first one. It totals a little over 1,000 acres. This program today is to tell you what Dan and I have done with our lives in the hope it will inspire you to think outside of your particular box and how you can make the most of the possibilities that you have in your life. It's a big, daunting world out there. I realize that. And I believe, though, that one person can make a difference. That difference doesn't need to be on a great, grand scale. It can be mirror where you are economically, geographically, emotionally, financially, as long as it mirrors your passion and your moral compass. I'd like to share with you one story about one. It was early one morning on a fairly warm August day at the beach. The sun's coming up over the horizon, and the tide is in the process of going out, and this young man's walking down the beach, and there's just a million starfish, little starfish, littering the beach. Clearly, this is going to be a problem for them when the sun comes up and the tide's out. They're going to cook. So every now and then he reaches down and he picks up a little starfish that you see there and throws it in the water. There's an older man following on behind him, and he's watched this young fellow doing this for a little while, and he said, what in the world he's trying to do? So he picked up his pace and he caught up with him and said, excuse me, son, I'm kind of curious. What are you doing? He said, I'm throwing these starfish back in the water. He said, son, look at the number of them out here. You can't possibly make a difference. And then let's the other man in the eye and say, he said one. And he says, I think I make a difference to this one. It throws him in the water. That's the power of one. Everything starts with one. Uh-oh. That was quick. That's my whole presentation. I'm not going to use page down, okay? I'm going to use what I was going to use. My first starfish was land conservation. I'm sorry, guys. This is embarrassing. There we go. Our primary intention was to reestablish the bobwhite quail, which were indigenous to this area and really still are, but they're almost extinct. As a former board member of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and the Nature Conservancy, I'm also keenly aware of the health of the water in the bay. When we started this program with the CRP and CREP programs of taking land out of commercial ag production and putting them into land conservation practices. Early on, everyone thought that you needed to put 100% of our land in ag practices and take it out of ag practices and put it into conservation. But we learned that that was not the case. We found that whole fields of warm season grasses were inhospitable to not only quail, but most all other wildlife. And that really all you needed was a border around 50-foot to 100-foot border around the ag operation in order to prevent the nutrients and sediment from running off into the bay. We realized that the just straight wildlife conservation practices was not the answer. You needed a combination. We found that our best mix included a third of the conservation practices, and here there are pictures of a number of them. This is the shallow water impoundment. These are warm season grasses up around here. There's a berm that goes all the way around here that traps this water. It also includes some shrubs. It also includes, in addition to the conservation practices, about 1/3 in commercial agriculture, consisting of small grains, wheat, soybeans, and corn. This is primarily for the food value that these crops provide for the wildlife. And finally, we need 1/3 of woods, woodlands and associated buffers into the ag uses. The results have been extraordinary. Not only have we reestablished the bobwhite quail, we've had a profound effect on many species of wildlife. And maybe most importantly, we've had a dramatic impact on the water quality of our creek, which empties into the Chesapeake Bay. This round structure right here is a mallard nesting structure. We hatched out some 285 mallards in 50 of those structures this year. The wood ducks, we were the top private wood duck producer in the state in 2012 and 2013, with 600 more ducklings being hatched out each year. We haven't heard yet how we did in 2014. However, I suspect we're likely to be named the top producer again, as we produced the most ducks yet, 641 ducklings in the same 81 boxes. Bluebirds, we hatched out 484 of those in 167 bluebird boxes. And also, we hatched out a number of songbirds, chickadees, wrens, swallows, and an occasional screech owl, of about 349 of them, for a total of about almost 1,000 birds out of 167 boxes. Purple martins, we hatched out about 133 of those in 30 gourds. The quail, as I said, we were successful in establishing the bobwhite quail. We know that because we spotted year-old chicks running around in the fields in 2007, 2002, and 2009. We were named Quail Unlimited's Mid-Atlantic Farm of the Year in 2009. But the winter of 2009 and 2010, for those of you who might have been alive at that point and remember it, we had 50 inches of snow that year, and it stayed on the ground for almost 60 days. Every single quail died. It was heartbreaking. That's the bad news. The good news is that because of the habitat we have and the remnants of some wild birds from neighboring farms, they're starting to rebound, which is an excellent thing. It'll take a while for them to build back up to the 15 or 18 coveys that we had at the time, but at least they're taking a hold. But in addition to the birds, that's what it looked like before the hogs got them. Amphibians and crustaceans abound. Fresh crustaceans are like freshwater shrimp, water spiders, and that kind of thing. The butterflies, like this tiger swallowtail, have responded to the flowers that we planted, wildflowers, and especially to the milkweed, which is the favorite of the monarch butterfly, which has just completed its migration. We also have a couple of families of bald eagles and hordes of wild turkeys now, of which we had none before we started these practices. As I say, we've improved the water quality is one of the unintended consequences of what we did above the water line. We can see the bottom of the creek in the cool seasons for the first time at the end of our dock, for the first time in almost 30 years. These oysters that you see here are about 3 years old. They started the size of your little fingernail 3 years before. They are growing in our water in Trips Creek without mortality and growing amazingly quickly. The salve, submerged aquatic vegetation, has returned to our creek in the last 3 years. That has been a great thing for the blue crab because they've had a place to hide from the striped bass when they're in their molting stage, which the favorite food of the striped bass is a blue crab. There are a number of organizations that are doing research studies on the farm right now. The United States Department of Agriculture, Riverkeepers, and Horn Point Lab, and the Nature Conservancy, and also Quail Unlimited. We're trying to figure out, there's not a lot of science to figure out if you get into the environmental area. There's a huge vacuum of science, and we really don't know uh, very much about the natural environment, and we need to add to that book of knowledge. Well, you're not limited to just one starfish. I have another one, and that is over more than 200 years. Our National Mall in Washington has provided an extraordinary view of the American democratic experience, and it's been the home, as you heard me say, to the history, heroes, and hope of America. I ask all of you just kind of figuratively close your eyes for just a second and think of your favorite memory or monument, whatever it is you think of when you think of the National Mall. The memory may have come from your 8th grade trip. I'm sure you did that. They're still doing that. I did that. Or you may have never been on the mall, but you've seen pictures of various things on the mall that give you an idea of something that you could think of. Well, this is my favorite. As you heard me say, I'm a veteran, I'm a patriot, and one of my favorite things to do is to run, I'm also a runner, on the National Mall and watch the sun rise over the Capitol building, which is what this picture is. It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It makes me proud to be an American, and I thank God I was born in this country as opposed to any place else on this earth. But as you start to look at the park's historic features with a critical eye, I was horrified. One of America's oldest public spaces with more memorials, more visitors, more than 25 million a year will visit this year. We expect that number to go to 40 million by 2025, which is more than the next 3 national parks combined, Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Grand Canyon, which are each of thousands of acres. This is only 750 acres. But it was in a very degenerated state of affairs after almost 40 years of neglect. The Park Service didn't single out the mall to neglect. The park system across the country has about a $9 billion unfunded deferred maintenance budget. Almost all the parks, and all those without a strong fringe organization, are threadbare and in bad need of repair. The National Mall's share of that $9 billion is $400 million of unfunded deferred maintenance. This is what it's like today. Today, the view of the National Mall is badly tarnished. Weeds grow and cracks like spider webs into the ground. Neglect has taken its toll. The great memorials are weary with age. Lighting is broken. There's not nearly enough visitor facilities such as bathrooms and catering facilities. In addition to the $400 million of deferred maintenance I just mentioned, there's about $300 million worth of infrastructure needed to support the 25 million visitors which visit annually. This is the tidal basin near the Jefferson Memorial. As you can see, it gets swamped. In fact, it gets swamped twice a day at high tide. I found the Central Park Conservancy about 8 or 10 years ago, and in late 2008, the Secretary of the Interior then, Dirk Thorne, signed our partnership agreement, which made us the official nonprofit partner of the Park Service to help raise private money to supplement the federal budget. So far, about $200 million has been allocated by the federal government to repair the Jefferson Memorial North Deck, replace the reflecting pool, repair the earthquake damage to the Washington Monument, which was badly damaged 2 years ago in the earthquake, and begin restoration of the turf between 3rd and 14th Street, which is that's been renovated. That's what this looked like before we started. Did anyone here go or watch the Concert for Valor on Tuesday, last Tuesday, a week ago? Anybody go? Okay. Well, the stage was right there. That's 4th Street. Excuse me. The stage was right there. That's 4th Street. Excuse me. The stage is right there. That's 4th Street. Believe me, that's 4th Street. And these 2 panels, which are renovated turf, is where the lucky people got to stand, and they were shoulder to shoulder. Probably about 100,000 people gathered around right there. We took the covering off the turf on Wednesday morning, and it looked just like that. So you can use the space and not tear it up if you do it the right way. Our first construction project that we're undertaking is the rehabilitation, rebuilding of Constitution Gardens. For those of you who are somewhat familiar, this is the World War II Memorial. This is the reflecting pool. The Vietnam Memorial is right here. This is Constitution Avenue, and this is 17th Street. This is about 38 acres, and it was built for the bicentennial in 1976. Back then, the words sustainable and landscape were not 2 English words that were used together. And as a result, the landscape that was built was not sustainable, and it shows it. It's in really sorry shape. This is a view looking east toward the Washington Monument, obviously. Um, the soil will barely support plant life. The water will not support marine life at all. There's no lighting provided, so the place is very inhospitable at night. The sit-down restaurant that was designed to go in right there was never built because they ran out of money. This is what it's going to look like after we finish. The restaurant, retail store, meeting spaces will be added. Also, the design will accommodate evening activities. As you can see, lighting is being added. And year-round use is also being added because we've added an ice rink here, which in the summertime will act as a model boat basin for wintertime use. This is another view from the other side of the water feature. Again, looking east in the restaurant facilities just out of the picture here. This is what it looks like today. You'd like to write home about your parents about that, right? Isn't that pretty? That's America's front yard. That's what the 8 or so million foreign visitors think of us when they come here every year. This is what we want it to look like when we finish renovating. This area on this side of the water feature make areas for contemplation, education, games, entertainment, picnicking, and just plain old hanging out. Well, the good thing is we know the problems. They're all fixable. They're essentially bricks and mortar problems, and there's a clear endpoint which is within our lifetime. And unlike many of the other untenable problems that our country face, we know the solution. We've begun or completed the National Mall Plan, design competition to come up with this construction, and the learning initiative. The outcome matters. The National Mall, America's front yard, needs to be made what it should be. The best park in the world. Thank you for listening to me, what I've done with our starfish at Harley and the National Mall. Everyone has the ability to pick up a starfish. That includes you. If you have not already done so, I invite you to pick up one and embrace the power of one. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dan, come on up.
Thank you for having me here. It's an honor and privilege to be here in front of the future of success in this area. And my name is Dan Bridges. I'm the owner and president of Aqua Pools and Spas in Easton, Maryland. And while I'm talking, the video or the slideshow will represent some of our work we've done over the last 40 years. So I'm also further honored to be sharing the stage with Chip Ackridge. Chip, I'm certainly happy that you and your family chose our area to settle in. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to more in the future. Honor, success, and gratitude. Those are the things that I try to keep in my heart every day. And it's something that's important to me. And I wanted to kind of, first of all, talk to you about how I feel those three words can have an impact on your life. Honor is honoring your parents and your friends and those that have had impact on you. But it's also it's having honor instilled in your heart. And I like to, I always think back to my grandparents and my parents. They've given me great guidance. And I always try to, when I make a decision throughout the days, I try to think about if it's something I'd want to say or do in front of my grandmother. If you think about it, if you're willing to say or do whatever you're saying and doing in some different places in front of your grandmother, that's pretty good advice. And my father gave me that advice, and he would always tell me, would you want to look like that in front of your grandmother? Most of the time, the answer was no. So I I would go change or change my attitude. And when you think about it, it'll really keep you grounded. So success is the toughest to define. I believe that if you have in your heart the ability to care for someone, you will have succeeded. And we try to do that every day in our family, and that's a challenge as well, and I understand that. You have to find your drive to succeed correctly, I believe, and we talked about it earlier at the luncheon, and your definition of success and what drives you can be anything. It can be financial stability, which a lot of people think about, but I think it's passion and love for what you do and respect and admiration. And I think those things are motivation enough for you to have the drive for success. The last of those three words that I like to keep in my heart is gratitude, and that's my favorite. I've got to tell you that there are many types of gratitude. There's the sudden type of gratitude that you get when you receive something. But there's the deeper, more heartfelt gratitude that you get that I particularly like when you give to somebody. And I know you all have experienced that. And that's the part that I like to focus on. And you've probably heard the expression that you should give until it hurts. Well, I want to tell you a little secret. It never hurts. It never hurts at all. So, so that's a little bit of philosophy, if you will, about my thoughts about growing and giving. But Kathy asked me to give us a few specifics. Tough word for old country boy, but this is the hardest part for me today, and that is talking about myself, but I wrote it down, so I'm going to read it. I was born and raised in Talbot County. I've lived every day of my life there, and I'm very blessed to be able to say that I've been able to live my life there, raise my family there, and have a career or careers in Talbot County and be able to stay on the eastern shore of Maryland. There's many people that I think would love to be able to do that, and I can wish that hope that many of you will want to do that as well. I graduated from Easton High School, and I even made a brief appearance at this fine institution right here, and I had such an impact on this fine institution, nobody ever knows I was here. That's true, but I will tell you, the reason I bring that unglamorous part of my life up is because there was a professor here. His name was Jerry Healy. And he was the reason that I got up 3 mornings a week and drove myself to Y Mills to sit and listen to what Jerry Healy had to say. He had an impact on my life. I couldn't tell you the first class that I took with him. I can't tell you the last class I took with him. But if it had Healy next to the description of the class, I was signing up. Because you talk about passion and you talk about excitement, Professor Healy would engage you. I hope some of you guys had an experience, were able to sit in his classrooms, but I can tell you he had an impact on an 18-year-old country bumpkin that set me on a path to where I am today. Because he showed me that passion for what you want to do can be exciting and fun. And that's how I got started in marketing and advertising. And his information gave me the focus that I needed. And with that, I realized I wanted to be in the sales force. And I started my career selling radio ads. For those of you who have iPods, that's the thing that's in the radio that you never listen to, or in your car that you never listen to anymore. But I sold for a local radio station. And what excited me about that was that I was a commission salesperson. And that sounds scary, but I really liked being on commissions. Because being on commissions in sales means that you can work as hard as you want, or you can work as little as you want. If you work as hard as you want, you get the rewards. If you want to work as little as you want, the only person you can complain to is standing in the mirror. So that was encouraging to me. So I liked sales, and I liked radio advertising, but much like many things in my life that created a change, it wasn't keeping my attention. It wasn't quite exciting enough. Now, this was in the 80s, and radio was starting to take a little decline, and it wasn't as exciting to me as other things could have been. And so I decided to go and work in a family business, and that wasn't exciting either. If any of you work with your family, there's not a whole lot of excitement working with your mom and your dad and your brother and your sister-in-law. There's not a lot of fun in that at all. So I had a former client that approached me about a newfangled thought process, and that was cable television advertising. And other than the people that I had lunch with, does anybody know what happened on August 2nd, 1990? Any historians out there? Well, that was the day that a fellow named Saddam Hussein decided he wanted to invade Kuwait and drop bombs on Kuwait. And it was the beginning of the Persian Gulf War because President Bush didn't think that was a very good idea. But for those of you who remember 1990, that's when we saw Scud missiles, and we saw reporters live in Kuwait as it was being bombed, and the country was captivated. And that's when a network called CNN became the most watched news network in the world. And about 5 months before that, I had started a company that offered cable advertising to 14 networks on the Delmarva Peninsula. And one of those networks was CNN. And the only place that you could buy an ad on CNN in 1990 was from me. And business before August 2nd was not very exciting. But boy, did it pick up on August 3rd. Everybody wanted to be on CNN, and I was a one-man band. I sold the ads, I wrote the ads, I produced the ads. I put them in the tower sites so they could be broadcast throughout the Delmarva Peninsula. And if anything went wrong in the middle of the night, I was going out there and repairing them. And it was a sun up to sundown and then some job, but virtually overnight, I went from a nobody knew who in the world I was to everybody in business had my phone number. And I was very fortunate to be in an unbelievable run at that part of my life. And for 8 years, I rode a wave that I've never seen before, or since, for that matter. In 1998, Comcast Cable had decided that they needed to buy my company, and we negotiated that, and we came to an agreement. And simultaneously and coincidentally, I had a friend who I'd known for many years who decided that he was going to be selling his business, and his wife became very ill, and he just had not been paying attention to his business. And rightfully so, his business was failing. And there I was with nothing to do and a little bit of money and the rest of my life to live. So once again, I took a risk, and I climbed out on that limb and took a risk. And I went home and I told my wife, I said, honey, I'm going to buy a swimming pool business. She said, no, you're not. I said, well, wait a minute. It's a pretty good opportunity. They need me. They need the things that I can do, and I need the things that they can do. And I don't have a job right now, and I'm not old enough to stop working. So she said, what in the world do you know about swimming pools? I said, about the same amount that I knew about cable advertising about 10 years ago, and that worked out all right. So there was a few tears. She liked that I wore the suit like this, which this is rare. This is for marrying and emburying for me. But she liked that I wore suits every day, and she liked that I had front row seats to concerts and ball games and that type of perk. She really liked that. But I talked her out of it, and I bought the pool cup. Actually, I had bought the company before I told her I bought the company. But don't tell her that. She still doesn't know that. So, long story short, once again, I climbed out on the limb, and that seemed to work out so far. It's Aqua, when I took over Aqua, it was in bad shape, and they needed some motivation, and they needed some leadership, and they needed some excitement, and they needed some motivation. And they didn't know it, but I needed it too. So we gave it to each other, and I have a wonderful staff of dedicated professionals that love coming to work just about as much as I do every day. And we have a lot of fun, and we do a lot of nice projects, as you're seeing here. That's my office. And as Professor Rust will tell you, we have a lot of fun in the off-season. So we've been on some pretty exciting trips together. I had 60 of my employees and their guests at Atlantis last year, and we just had a big time there. We really did. So I've been very blessed to have worked with those for the last 18 years, and Aqua has grown eightfold since I got there in 1998, 97, so somewhere around there. But here's the fun part, and you know, as I said, I've lived on the Eastern Shore all my life, and I've been blessed to live here with my family and friends, and I've also been blessed to have very many foremothers and forefathers that have helped me along the way and helped promote me and helped promote my business. But they are also the forefathers and the foremothers that have kind of taken me off the side and put their arms around me and said, okay, boy, this community's been pretty good to you. Don't forget to give back. And my father died in 2003 at the age of 61. And he was carried to the grave by the mayor of my town and many other businessmen there. And they've kind of taken it upon themselves to make sure that they keep an eye on me and don't let me get too much astray like I used to get a little astray on. But they also tell me when it's time for me to give to my community. And I give until it hurts, and it never hurts. And I enjoy every nickel of it that I do. And you know, it started for me as a little leaguer. When I played Little League, we wore wool uniforms. Imagine that. But boy, the day they gave us our uniforms was the happiest day of my life. You'd put that uniform on, and it would be 100 degrees out, and you'd put this full wool uniform on, and they'd hand you a Coca-Cola can or whatever, and they'd say, go to the businesses and show them your new uniform and tell them that you need help paying for it. And that was one of the most rewarding things that I ever did. I'd go to the businesses, and I knew the businesses to go to. And most of them aren't around anymore, and most of those folks aren't alive anymore, but I can remember them like yesterday. I'd go to them because I knew who would give you the $5 bill. And I'd go there first, and I'd get my can out. What I didn't know is he gave everybody a $5 bill. I found that out 20 years later, but I thought I was special enough to him that I got the $5 bill instead of a quarter. And then I'd go to another one, and I knew he was a really nice guy, and he'd give me $2 or $3, and I'd go on around, and I'd get my can filled up, and I loved every bit of it. And I loved going and seeing Mr. Hurley at the Oak Hill Diner, and I'd love going to see Elmer Fox at his store and get a lollipop. Those were my mentors. Those were my heroes, and because they always supported everything that went on in my town. And I knew then that's what I wanted to be someday. So I've spent most of my life trying to live up to those standards. And it's been an honor to do that. Like I said, the chief of police, he lives, the former chief of police lives 2 doors from me. And there's not a week goes by that he doesn't come and give me some advice to this day. And he still calls me Danny Boy, which is all right. I don't mind it so much. But Danny Boy, did you see that the hospice is having a fundraiser on Tuesday? Yes, sir, I did. Well, I've already made my contribution, Chief. He said, well, good. And then he'd turn around and walk on back home. But I'd see him every week. I still do, and I love every bit of it. So I guess what I can hope to impress upon you today, if there's anything that I can impress upon you, is we give to our community. And we love to give to our community. And this community has been very good to me and my family and my businesses. So as much as we can, we give. And I will tell you that there's no gratitude better than the ability to give where it's needed. So that's pretty much all I have. I thank you all for listening to the babbling of a Eastern Shore hayseed, and I can smell the success in the air here, and I look forward to great things from each and every one of you. And if you ever need anything to run by me, or you have some advice that you'd like to have from me, then come on by and see me. I'd be happy to talk to you. I look forward to your futures. It's going to be very bright. Thank you very much.
All right, so folks, it's my notepad. I'm trying to speak to these guys. Like, let me know it's not important. I wanted to get this one right. We invited these two distinguished gentlemen to help us introduce sort of business and giving back to businesses today, and or giving back to communities today. And what I wanted to do is give you a chance to hear from somebody in your own set, your own age group, your own peer group. And with that, I want to introduce Mr. Ryan Payne, student here at college. Ryan started his own landscaping firm. It's R&B Landscapes LLC. It's a 9-year-old firm. He started in 2005 now, right? And he runs that firm with an eye towards environmental awareness. It is not only unusual, but it's also critical for that business. So I think the theme here is both in terms of business and in terms of the environmental consciousness of what Ryan tries to do. So without further ado, Ryan, can you tell us who you are, what you do? Thanks for coming. Thanks.
Afternoon, everybody. I want to thank Greg Farley and Catherine Rust for having me here today. So, much like these gentlemen, I started out from nothing. I'm here today talking on behalf of the landscape architecture program that Greg Farley has tried very hard to get started here in the spring. I am from Talbot County. I've grown up in Talbot County, lived there my whole life, and it came to me that one day when I was about 11 years old, I needed to earn money to go do things. So started knocking on some doors and getting clients to cut grass for. So I started doing that, and then when it became too busy with that, or grass cutting, or not having enough to do with that, I should say, I went and I started getting more involved into the landscaping aspect of it, and kept getting involved in landscaping and finding out more aspects of it and how to do this, how to do that. And many of Dan's pools that you've seen, I've done a lot of the landscaping around some of these houses that you've seen. And you go to these houses and you see Dan has done such a great job with these pools, and also that these pools that he's provided have put out amazing architecture. So why not flourish it with landscape? And not to mention landscape that's natural to the environment. So when we go around to our job sites, we try to have a very good aspect to the environment, because if you don't give back to the environment and have a stable environment, you can't do what you need to do. So we've started from nothing, basically. I mean, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub between my fingers here, and like Dan was saying, and many other people have said before, I mean, you get so excited when you start growing and you start realizing that, hey, I can really make something out of this, and you can give back to people, and it's very encouraging to do so. So when I get to a certain point, and it was probably about 4 years ago, I realized that it's not about the money. It's really not, and it's about educating people and teaching them on where to go and what to do. And I get more pleasure out of seeing people with a smile on their face after we've done the job than the pay, because we go to jobs and that these people can't do it, and they don't have the resources or the time, and when they step back and they look at it and they say, Ryan, this is an amazing job, you think to yourself, I mean, they can't do this, so I mean, how else can you give back to them? I mean, in what other way? And so it's an amazing feeling, and you look at them and you appreciate the business and everything else, and you have to step back and thank them really for their business, because if it's not for your clients, if your clients aren't happy, then you have no business. So, I mean, that's pretty much how I go about my day. And we're growing. As of right now, we're still growing, and we keep growing. We keep getting more employees. And I mean, very minuscule to comparatively to these gentlemen, but you know, it's all taking. I mean, it's breathtaking some days when you realize how much that you've done. And I mean, I go to work every day and I love it. And these gentlemen, they can admit to it too. You'll never work a day in your life if you love what you do. And I love what I do every moment. I have some of the greatest people that work with me. I mean, they make me laugh all day long. I mean, who wants to have a boring day of just doing monotonous things? I mean, you got to have true characters on your team. And you know what? I have an amazing people that work with me. Some of them are, they're smart and they like to backsass. But you know, the thing is, though, you have to take into consideration of what they're saying, because I mean, they have better ideas sometimes than what you have. So you have to give and take, and you have to learn from your mistakes. And it really it makes you appreciate where they're coming from and what they see. So I just wanted to thank you all today for coming out here on this lovely sunny day. And our landscape architecture program will be starting in the spring of 2015. And Greg Farley, I believe you're teaching it.
I'm not teaching in the program. I'm the program architect. Yeah. Ryan, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Ryan's given me a great opening to pitch briefly for the landscape architecture program. We are actually running 2 degree programs starting in the spring, and they are both about this field of endeavor. They're both about landscape and landscape design. One of those degrees is in landscape design. It's actually not landscape architecture proper. The American Society of Landscape Architects has asked that we call it a landscape design curriculum. The program is designed to set you on your feet with an understanding of the principles of landscape architecture, though, and to help you gain entry to the competitive Bachelor of Landscape Architecture program at College Park. That leads you to a very rich and rewarding academic and practical career that has a great deal to say about how we use and in many cases how we reinvigorate landscapes nationwide. The second degree program would be a degree program in landscape management, which is much more tailored towards the sciences, much more tailored towards some very, very hard-nosed practical information that you could apply on the ground in a business of your own choosing here on the shore, and would allow you to better set of skills and to compete better for jobs in what is an amazing marketplace here for landscape firms. So if any of you are interested in those programs, I'm happy to talk to you. 2 classes coming up in the spring. One is the Introduction to Landscape Architecture, it's LARC 160, and the other one is an Introduction to Horticulture, Biology 105, I believe is the course number on that one. So thanks, y'all, for being interested in things like this.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. I'm going to open it up to questions. If I could have you 2 gentlemen come on up here and we'll open it up to Q&A. Let's see if I can get the lights right. Okay, there we go.
My glasses are
All
good.
right. Here.
Thank you.
All right. So does anyone have a question?
Okay, the question was, in our wildlife habitat work, do we work with any organizations? And the facts are, yes, we do work with Ducks Unlimited. They're actually getting ready to start a project, shallow water retention pond on one of the properties this next spring. We've also worked with Quail Unlimited, doing a number of different things. But to answer your question, yes.
You must have been pretty thorough.
I think you covered all the bases, Dan. There we go. The question was, what are the most important characteristics the person should have in running their own business? Let me go first.
Sure.
All right. Because I'm sure we have different things. But what I try to tell everybody that comes to work at the Actors Company is that the most important thing to us is our reputation. And good reputation over the last 40 years, and you can tear it down in an instant. So when you get ready to do something for this company, do what I do, and that's ask yourself 5 quick questions. Is what I'm getting ready to do legal? Is it moral? Is it ethical? Is it first class? Or does it stand a chance of making money? If you get yes to the first 4, do it. And you'll be just fine.
I would certainly agree with Chip as well. Integrity and honesty, and the revenue stream that I've kind of dodged around, it's a lot more important than I alluded to today. So I would concur with Chip as well, that you want to make sure that you're honest and approachable and have your integrity in place, but you've got to also be able to sustain your company as well. So.
Give you a chance.
None of my employees are minimum wage employees. I do think it does give pressure to certain number of my subcontractors that are smaller companies, and it's going to give some pressure to them to be able to sustain their company as well. Because along with the increased wage or increased benefits that go along with that, as far as the unemployment insurance or workers' compensation, that type of thing. So those things are impactful, and I certainly don't want to begrudge anybody for making more money, but I don't think it's fair that they should make money just because they decide they want more. I think they should earn more.
The question was, what impact will an increase in the minimum wage law have on our businesses? And I'm like Dan, I don't really have any minimum wage earning employees. I guess I wish I did, but I don't. There are a bunch of minimum wage earning folks out there. Obviously, it's important to them. Minimum wage has not kept up with inflation over the last 20 years, and I see that there's probably a good reason to raise the minimum wage. I think, though, that you will find that the employers of minimum wage people are mostly businesses that operate on fairly thin profit margins, and they'll be passing those charges right along to you in the price of your McDonald's hamburger. Okay, the question was, do I get any government assistance when I do the conservation practices? And the answer is absolutely. I get support from the federal government. The CRP, CREP programs are programs that are run by the Department of Agriculture through the Farm Service Agency here locally. CREP is an enhancement of the federal program by the state of Maryland, which adds a little additional funding. I'm reimbursed for the establishing the conservation practice. The percentage of reimbursement varies depending upon a lot of different factors, but there is reimbursement. And then we are paid an annual rent for not commercially farming the land. This is only applicable to commercial cultivated land that's been in ag production for at least 5 years. So.
I think about this a lot. I have a lot of people ask me that, and I'm not sure that you can. I think the question was basically, can you teach someone to be an entrepreneur, right? I don't know that you can necessarily teach that, but you used the word instill. I think that just by motivating someone and instilling certain values and drive into someone, that you can possibly motivate and instill those values. And but I don't know that you can teach somebody to want to motivate themselves. I don't know if that's teachable. What do you think, Jeff?
I agree. I do not think it's a learned skill. I think you're kind of born with it or not, and I think it can be honed and focused and directed and improved, but I think that the basic seed has to be there to start with. The question was, can the community college do anything to prepare you students for jobs here on the shore? And that's a complicated question, actually, your statement, in that we don't really, by educating people, we don't create jobs. That doesn't create jobs. We have to fill the jobs that are out there. And the facts are we seem to be doing that. What we're not doing is we're not creating jobs on the shore. We're not attracting new businesses. We're not attracting new startups, although I'm glad to hear about at least one here that's going. And as a result, we have a lot of our young people leaving the shore. So it's a chicken and egg thing. Actually, it's not. It's not a chicken and egg thing. Because just because you're qualified to do a job, if there's not a job out there, you're not going to do it. So it really comes down to growing the jobs first. That's right. So the question is, how do you bring the jobs here? And there's a lot of people have been noodling that around for the last 5 or 6 years. As a matter of fact, for those of you who don't know, in Talbot County, I don't know about Queen Anne's County here, but last year in Talbot County, the local county gross product declined 3%, which means there's economic stagnation, not growth. And that is not a good trend if it keeps up. But you're just not attracting the jobs.
My question is, I missed the first part of your guys' presentation. Then you got to be here now. Did you guys attend college, graduate from college? What is your education history? Because I've met a lot of businessmen and women who did not attend college and claim that a lot of their knowledge was outside of school. They learned and they became extremely wealthy and successful without education.
The question was, did we attend college? The only college I attended was Mr. Healy's classes, that one semester. I can tell you that. It just wasn't in my makeup, much like Chip was talking about you have to be born with certain things, entrepreneurial. That was not my course that I took. That doesn't mean it's good, bad, or indifferent. But I did not have college education. I did the School of Hard Knocks, I guess is what you would say.
I had a dual education. I had the School of Hard Knocks too. Bill Gates did not graduate from college. Okay, so is that a requirement? No, it's not. Albert Einstein didn't graduate from college. I did graduate from college, Georgia Tech, and mechanical engineering degree, and I went on to get an MBA. So it could be either way.
You mean leave now?
That was spectacular. So, let's see over here. I can't thank them enough for coming to campus. So, yeah, big round of applause.
Thanks for having us. It was a joy.
So thanks for coming. I think you have to go to lab, is what Greg said? Still required? Okay. Professor Farley, sorry. Okay.